speak for itself. Grinding in silence, ain't nothing to tell. When we step on the court, we gon' bring it to light. And we stop and pop like we caught it a light. Stop asking what's wrong with me. You already know there's a dog in me. And there's no stopping my focus, man. Make sure all my people gon' ball with me. Yeah, I came to compete, I'm a dog with it. Yeah, I came to compete with my paws in it.
What's up, guys? It's your boy JD, Jordan Delks, mindset guru and basketball trainer right here at Compete Training Academy, home of the Barn in North Central Indiana. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if this is your regular space, to get your mind right, you are family to my wife, Courtney, and I. If this is your first time here, welcome. And I want to tell you, you are in for an absolute treat because my guest that I'm about to introduce is going to have an epic conversation here on the pod today. But before I introduce him, I want to direct you to my website, competetrainingacademy.org. Grab my book, The Compete Mentality. It's keys to realize your purpose and maximize your potential in this life with my best mindset practices, stories, tips, and tricks. It's an Amazon bestseller. Go over to competetrainingacademy.org. And without further ado, I get to the very, very absolute pleasure to introduce my brother, Dr. Stephen Bennet, who has an unbelievable basketball career that we're going to go through here today. Also has a company entitled Bold, Bennet Orthopedics and Leadership Development. And so we're going to dive into that as well. And without further ado, I just want to welcome Dr. Stephen Bennet. Thank you, Stephen, for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, no, Jordan, thank you. It's an awesome opportunity for me and seeing all the stuff. I love what you do. So it's really an honor for me, and I'm grateful to be here to be able to be on this with you and talk it up. So
absolutely. We were connected through a mutual connection. Both of our dear friends, Mason Gillis, you and I were going to meet at the Final Four, and glad we're meeting here today. So glad we can make it happen here today. And Dr. Bennet, just kind of starting off a little lighter. We're all about mind, body, spirit here at Compete Training Academy and mindset and basketball. But I always like to say what brings people together. There's nothing that brings people together than basketball and food. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of kicking us off, like from what I understand, you live in just south of Dayton, Ohio. So just what's kind of your go-to food option, restaurant? What's your go-to here?
Yeah, Jordan, I'm a basic guy, man. I'm gonna have to go with the Cheesecake Factory. Unlimited options. But I get the same thing every time because I'm a creature of habit. So, but I'd have to pick the Cheesecake Factory.
What are you ordering? What do you get the same thing?
Oh, the Louisiana chicken pasta. It's unbelievable.
Okay. I gotta get it. I gotta go down to Keystone and grab some here in Indiana. Factory it up. I love it, Stephen. And Stephen, you grew up in Newcastle, Indiana. Tell us a little bit about your basketball career and just how that shaped who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Newcastle is kind of a basketball mecca, in terms of town, people taking pride in basketball. Obviously, Indiana, the state in general, loves basketball, but Newcastle has the largest high school field house in the world. It's one of the things we're known for. The Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame is in that city, and it's got a rich tradition and a rich history. My dad was the basketball coach from the late 90s, really to the mid, it's like 2013 when I graduated and went to Butler.
The legend, Steve Bennet.
Yeah, no, shout out, bias because he's my dad, but even bias aside, he's an unbelievable coach and an even better person. So I'm very blessed to have had him.
The opportunity to watch the Final Four Duke practice, sit next to him and
nice.
Tammy. And man, oh man, I just love sitting and chatting it up with people who talk Indiana basketball stories. And we could have talked all day. I absolutely love it. And even more so, him with the legendary coaching career that he had, his value on player development, which is obviously a passion of what Courtney and I do at Compete Training Academy, and how he incorporated that as a head coach. It made me even more of a fan of who he is, because I think player development gets missed by head coaches a lot.
Yep.
He placed a huge emphasis on it. So it was great to meet him.
Yeah, he takes a lot of pride in that, and he's really who taught me. I mean, it's okay to be tough on people as long as they know that you care about them. And man, there was nobody who cared more about his players than him, and he pushed them to be their very best. And I think you see that in the relationship he has with them now. So it's pretty cool. He's a good guy.
Absolutely. So had a stellar career at Newcastle playing for your dad. Want to I have a son. He's 8 years old, and
Yep.
getting into youth sports, coaching your kids, stuff like that, right? What was
Uh-huh.
it like playing big time basketball for your dad? Because I'm sure that it had some great pros, but also some cons
Yeah.
as coach player relationship and father son relationship kind of meet head to head.
Yeah, no doubt, Jordan. It was a challenge to say the least. And honestly, like many others would probably say, the farther I get away from it, the more I appreciate it. But those times growing up, especially when I played for him in high school, I mean, they were hard. We would go after it in practice. We'd butt heads in practice. And, in a perfect world, I'd tell you that we came home and it was totally separated. It was not. And my poor mom was kind of always stuck right in the middle of it. But it was such a special opportunity now looking back on it. And those tough times, and I think also in terms of player development, another thing that gets missed, I think, when you go through tough times as a young kid, teen, high school athlete, I mean, those things really set you up for success later in life. So as hard as those times were, especially when I went through all my knee injuries and my 3 surgeries, and that really changed the trajectory of my career, those are the times that now that I'm 31, I look back on and I peel off of, and I'm like, those lessons still apply to me today. So I'm super blessed that he was my coach. I took it for granted for a long time. I wish I could be on the other side now and still watch him coach, honestly, because I'd have a whole new appreciation. But it was tough. It was special. I'm thankful for it.
I really like that. Tough times make tough people, I like to say,
Yep.
if you deal with it the right way. And so
Yes.
I love hearing that going through that on the other side, you're grateful for it. And in my mindset training, when I obviously tough times are in everyone's life, when we
Yep.
go through it, if it makes you better, does it make you better or does it make you bitter? And I
Mhm.
love how it's made you a better person. Um, Coach, you went on to have a dream career at Butler, being a part of Sweet 16, different things like that. Just kind of the glory days of Butler. Tell
Yeah.
us about how you got to Butler and walk us through your career there.
Yeah, so my dream always was to play Division I basketball. I mean, there was really no other option. I'm a little bit of a firm believer that, there is no plan B. And sometimes that doesn't always work and sometimes it does. But I was all in my entire life growing up to be a Division I basketball player. And I had earned some scholarships. I unfortunately tore my ACL, my meniscus, my patellar tendon after that. I had 3 knee surgeries. Every single scholarship I had was taken away. I had one left at Miami of Ohio, and their coach unfortunately passed away. That one got taken away when the new coaching staff came in. So I was kind of left with a blank slate before my senior year. I had all those injuries during my junior year. I finished that year and I said, listen, I was at the Division I level. I was earning scholarships at that level before I got hurt. And I said, I'd be remiss not to go and say, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to be the best I can possibly be and go after that. So what I did was I chose to be a walk-on at Butler, and I played all 4 years there. I eventually earned a scholarship. I became a team captain my senior year with Andrew Travis, who was an unbelievable player.
Oh yeah.
And my individual career never turned out quite the way that I wanted it to. I never played as much as I wanted, but I always said I'd rather fail trying to be the very best I could be than settle for anything less. And the lessons I learned through being a walk on, the relationships that I developed with my teammates, and the fact that, I got to be a part of 3 NCAA tournament teams. And I always say the one thing I'm most proud of is being team captain for that team with Drew my senior year because, it was something my teammates chose. It wasn't, I wasn't averaging 25, 30 a game. It was because they knew that I cared about them. And so, it was an unbelievable time for me, unbelievable lessons. And I'm super grateful for Coach Stevens allowing me to come there, and then Coach Miller and Coach Holtman allowing me to stay there and everything in between. So,
So tell us three amazing head coaches right there. Coach Stevens, Coach Miller, Coach Holtman. Kind of tell us like as we have a lot of leaders listening to this podcast, like
mhm.
what made them great leaders?
I think it took, I
Kind of
think
break
it
it down
comes,
for each one of them.
yeah, I would say that an overarching theme is the ability to develop relationships with people. I mean, if you can develop, especially at the highest level, right? When there's so many other distracting voices, there's so many other people talking at you. When you can sit down in front of somebody as a leader, as a coach, whatever it may be in that role, and they can know that you care about them and that you trust, that they can trust you and that you want the best for them, then you can coach them as hard as you want. You can go through tough times together and even win, and it's inevitable in every college player's career, especially at that level. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be times where they think they're going to be playing 35 minutes a game and they're averaging 25, and all of a sudden they're going to be playing 5 minutes and getting a shot or two a game. I mean, it happens to almost everybody. And so your ability to preemptively get a little investment into that person, communicate well with them, develop that relationship well with them, will get them to buy into who you are, because I think that they have to buy into the person before the mission of that leader or that coach. And so then you can go through the tough times together. And really, as you allude to, and you do a great job with people, is then I can take you and we can maximize your potential. Because everything else in between is an unsaid loyalty, it's an unsaid bond. So we go through whatever we need to do to make you the best you can possibly be. And then that way we can make the team the best they can possibly be. And so I think each of them were incredibly gifted at that, and communicators, relationships developers, and you saw that in the success of the teams. So
100% relationships matter. And if you don't have relationship, you can't coach people up. I love that foundation that you absolutely have to have. And if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're a leader, and whether you're leading your family, whether you're leading your marriage, whether you're leading a team, whether you're leading a business or organization or employees, relationship, what can you do to dive deeper into the well with the people that you lead? Show them you love them, show them you care about them, because when that's the foundation, man, growth happens without a doubt.
That's the truth. Yeah, no doubt.
Coach, a little bit of I love basketball training. So just kind of like talk to us, high school, college. What were some like staples of basketball training? Maybe some disciplines or routines or things that you had to do on a weekly basis as a player to keep your game right, to keep your mindset right, just to stay confident.
Yeah, I think for me, it was like I was in there almost, which a lot of people are, they're in there every day, but I was doing a lot of especially when I got to Butler, because I knew that if I did get into those kind of meaningful minutes, that I would have a specific job, a specific role. I mean, the Patriots were famous for saying, do your job.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I got in the game in a meaningful moment, or even at those, those less meaningful moments, I still had a job to do, but it was going to be to shoot, right? I mean, that's what I was known for. I was a shooter. It was going to be to go in there and make a shot. I wasn't going to shut anybody down on defense. I wasn't going to be bringing the ball. It was going to be to make the shot. And so that was my job. So I did, every time I went to work out, it would be very laser focused. It'd be the shots that I think that I would get if I were to get in those moments, or in practice too. And I do them over and over and over again. I think one of the biggest things that I continue to learn when I see guys who are playing at the highest level, at the next level, is they're not in there. They may work a lot. They're not in there 5, 6, 7 hours, like doing kind of whatever. Like they're in there targeted, right? Like they're breaking down their shot, they're breaking down their dribble, they're breaking down the offense to the finest detail, to where they're doing the exact same every single time. So when I would go in there, I try to do the cuts the same way every single time, the shooting form the same way every single time. There's all kinds of coming off the big three, of all kinds of shooting principle, but it's the fine details that players can do over and over and over again that I tried to do to be ready for those. And that was what I could say, that going into any practice or any game, really two reasons: that work leading up, that consistent repetition of the same things over and over again. And then the other thing that I would always do, which is more of a mindset thing, that, talking on this podcast, was like, there was nobody who was going to take more pride in not letting their teammates down than me. Like, so I knew, like, if I got in that game, like, I wasn't going to let them down. There was no way. I may not have been perfect, but I would have done my job to the highest level so that I can look at my teammates and say, I gave it everything I had. And I knew that if I could have those two things in my mind, that I would be ready. And, the moment, it may have never came, but, in practices, I did the same thing. I tried to work for the betterment of my teammates, and, that applies to life now. So, but those two things, that consistent laser focused repetition, and then saying, hey, my teammates, I got you. I can look you right in the eye and say, I got you. Those are the two things I always try to do to make sure I was ready.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. No
Yep.
matter what walk of life you're in that you're listening to this right now, there is
Yep.
so much to preach and that we can take away from that segment right there that you gotta fall in love with the monotony. You gotta
Hmm.
fall in love with the mundane. You gotta fall in love with eating the same thing over and over every day. You gotta fall in love with doing the same, if you're a basketball player, the same drills and reps and the shots that you're going to get, something very targeted. I love the quantity over quality mindset that you took to your basketball approach of it doesn't matter if you're going 5 to 6 hours in the gym if it's not focused and targeted. I'd say it to players all the time. I'd much rather you get 45 to 60 minutes, very targeted, very focused work. Same thing in business. All you business leaders listen to this podcast. No matter what, maybe you're a teacher, high school teacher, get targeted, get focused. What fat can you trim from your process? Because where your attention goes, energy flows. Where are you
Yep.
placing your attention? Get it very targeted, very focused, and I promise that you're going to see more and more results in your life. So,
Absolutely. Hmm.
Dr. Bennett, just kind of talk to us. Everyone's basketball career comes to an end at some point.
Yep.
Tell us about the transition from basketball into medicine and what that journey was like.
Yeah, and it stems back from those injuries that I mentioned my junior year, and it wasn't the fact. I mean, it was the surgeries were cool, the things that they were able to do with their hands, but it was really going back to the relationship thing. It was the relationship that I developed with my surgeon to go through that whole year of surgery and rehab and missed opportunities and lost dreams, and it was him believing in me and guiding me through that to where I really, to this day, because obviously you hear me talking about it, like I have a forever gratitude and a debt to him for the way that he was not only able to fix me, but lead me into getting back and into playing, into going after my biggest dreams, even with the risk of failure. And so I wanted to be able to, and I still want to be able to do that for athletes. So when I decided to go to medical school during my basketball career at Butler, I worked for all that. I tried, graduated, and I was able to go right into medical school. I was very blessed to be able to do that in Marion, right there in Indianapolis. And I spent 4 years at Marion, and then I what we call match into orthopedic surgery because that's what the surgeon I had. Orthopedic surgery involves ACLs, rotator cuff tears, meniscus, joint, all kinds of different musculoskeletal type of injuries or surgeries. And so now I'm in my fourth year out of five doing that. And then I just yesterday, actually, we had our another match into fellowship, which is going to be an extra year of training that I do. And it's a sports medicine fellowship. So it's going to be all sports related injuries and surgeries. That's going to be at the Ohio State University. And so I'm going to be able to work with their football team, with their basketball team, with the team surgeons, and understand all of their sports and taking care of athletes surgically and non-surgically in the realm of injuries and in the realm of dealing with NIL and all kinds of different things. So, it was the relationship that I dealt with my surgeon that got me into medicine. I'm going to be a surgeon and subspecialize into sports medicine. And my dream, my goal is to take care of athletes at all levels, from the professional to college to high school to young kids and anybody in between. So I'm excited for that part of my career. But it's been fun. It's been a little bit long. I've been in it 9 years now since I graduated from Butler. Going to be 11 total. But anything worth having takes a little time. So
That's right. I love that. And I absolutely love how a doctor, a person you looked up to, someone who impacted your life and led you through a time of adversity,
mhm.
inspired you in such a deep way that now you wanted to do the same thing and help other people. I talk all the time with my mindset clients, who's your hero?
Mhm.
Who's your hero? Who's your role models? Who's your coaches? If you don't have a coach in your life, you got to get one. I got 3 to 4 coaches at all time that I pay a wage to each month to help me grow.
Yep.
Listen to Dr. Bennett. That's an awesome story, Dr. Bennett. What a testimony of the power of he was essentially a coach for you, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
helped you get through a time of adversity to propel you to the future self that you were created to be and maximize your potential. Love,
Uh,
love, love that story there. Dr. Bennett, just kind of tell us about your company, Bennet Orthopedics and Leadership Development, and why did you develop that?
Yeah, that really stems from two reasons. One, as I continued, and really I found that out my junior and the senior year at Butler, and then kind of moving on. Like I love to be able to lead and pour into people through speaking and through writing. And as I went through my medical career and continue to, it always come up in my mind. I'd always be envisioning the future, trying to create a clear plan for the life that I want to live. And it was always like, wow, I want to be, depending on if you love that realm or not, there's the John Maxwell's of the world, there's the John Gordons, there's the coaching leaders, there's all kinds of people who go speak and speak into people and write books for people, just like you have. And I was in this field of medicine and surgery, but I was like, I've got to make that part of my life. So that was the first reason. And the second really is I'm a faith guy, I'm a Christian, and it was always something that I felt God gave me a little bit of a talent for and a passion for, and he wanted that to be a part of my life. So I said, there's no way I can not do it. So I figured out ways, and I eventually developed it because I wanted to combine the orthopedics and the leadership. And so we came up with BOLD, Bennet Orthopedics and Leadership Development, like you mentioned. And what that really is it's a way for people they can gain some orthopedic basic knowledge, but it's really a way for people to gain leadership lessons. We have a blog. In a way for people to book me as a keynote speaker. I love to stand up in front of a crowd. It's funny because in general, I'm more of a quiet guy, like on my day to day, or more of a just kind of a steady pace. But I love to get up there and speak to people. I love to motivate people. I love to lead people, similar to the way that you do. I just think it's such a rewarding experience. And so that's the first step, really, to make it a forever part of my career, to where I can pour into people and see what happens. I mean, no matter how big or small that you start, there's no way to be incredibly great at it unless you start. So I'm excited to see where that takes me and what kind of impact it may have on people. Because if there's anything I've learned through, some of my own dreams being taken away, some of my own individual things, there's really, individual satisfaction it really never satisfies you when you've tasted significance. Significance meaning, hey, you're living your life to pour into others and help them to be the best they can possibly be. And so that's what BOLD is all about. That's what my career as a surgeon is all about. And so when I was able to combine the two, I thought it was a perfect way to really catapult that part of my career. And hopefully I'm speaking of something with you someday. And, we're having a blast doing that because I just think it would be amazing. So it's a big dream, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So,
Man, I am fired up for this. You're speaking my language. We're birds of a feather there. I can't wait to see how God uses BOLD. And there's no doubt that I see as you're speaking about it, that it's a passion on your heart. And each and every listener right now, I'm going to challenge you. Follow your passions. Trust them. God put them there. I think sometimes we can think that our passions are selfish, that you're going after it for no. God created you with a unique design. He created you in his image. He created you with dreams and passions that you have to go for and you have to live out, because it's not for you, it's for others. And that's how you're going to impact other people, by chasing your dream and making it about serving Christ and the people around you. I love that, Dr. Bennet. I'm so excited for BOLD and the impact that it's going to have on people. One of my favorite things to do as a mindset coach is kind of marry faith and science.
Yeah.
And I think people miss the boat sometimes. They're all faith, or they're all science. But to me, God created science. I love marrying those two together.
Yes.
Think about it, listener. Faith, I like to spell faith, R-I-S-K. And
yeah, I love that.
Faith is illogical at times. You have to take out, you gotta take a leap of faith to chase your dreams. Science many times is very logical, and God created it. Your brain is the conscious and subconscious can be how it is actually developed, and God created your brain is a very logical thing to make plans, which you need both. I'm not discrediting either, but kind of describe, Coach Bennet, a time in your life where I like to say in my mindset training that so you, as I just portrayed faith and science, like sometimes they war against each other, but you actually need to be more like dancing with the stars. They need to go in this beautiful dance together and you need them both.
Yeah.
Kind of like describe a situation in your life where you needed to rely on science, putting together a plan, uh, using your brain, but then also like the faith spelled RISK, you had to take a leap of faith, you had to take a risk and describe how that journey played out.
Yeah, I think, wow, what a great question. I think that, there are times in my world, I deal with science all the time, obviously, and I would very lovingly and kind of peacefully say, like, gosh, the two are so intertwined. I know there are some out there on the one end of the spectrum who say, science almost disproves like the faith and things like that, but the more I learn about it, I would lovingly say they're so intertwined, and none of that would be possible without God creating it. And, wouldn't downgrade anybody who thinks otherwise, but lovingly, I would say that. And, there are times in my world, not that often, and some other type of medical specialties where, we see somebody and there's a pathology or a presentation of somebody going through something that is life-threatening. And so most time in my world, an infectious type of thing, we won't get too into the weeds, but of the medical, but it's like, you see somebody, you try to make a diagnosis, and all of a sudden you kind of have to have the faith that you have the skill and the knowledge to be able to take care of those people. So, there have been only really 2 or 3 times in my career thus far, at least, seeing somebody in the emergency department having to make a call. Hey, we need to go to this emergently, and to do the things that are backed up by science and by repetition and by the things that we've learned about the human body too. And then we say, hey, we're going to take you from point A to point B through surgery, and hopefully you survive because of that. And there have been a couple times where I've seen that happen, and seen the knowledge and the resources, the science and the faith all come together for that person that's on the table. And it's a pretty unique and unbelievable experience. And there's not a ton of life-saving moments in my realm, but there are a few. And seeing those moments kind of intertwine it's a special and unique representation, I think, of the things that God has put together for us to continue to take care of people and help people and try to bring a little positivity and a little faith in that realm. So it's pretty special to see, I think.
I can't imagine. I think you got such a cool job of seeing faith and science play
Yes.
out every single day and just the incredible things. That book that you talked about writing, that's coming. And
Yeah.
I can't wait to read it. I'll be first in line to grab a copy because
I
you have
appreciate
some
it. Yeah.
unbelievable stories that you just see God working through science. And I just love it when I hear stories like that.
Yeah.
Coach
Yeah.
Bennett, turning the topic really to mindset. We got a
Yes.
lot of people that listen to this podcast, the compete mentality, to level up their mindset. How important is mindset in your day to day, and how do you keep a strong mindset?
Yeah, not to be biased to your podcast, but to me, it's the most important in any field, whether you are a basketball player or you play sports, you are in business, you are in medicine, you are a coach, you are an artist, a musician. I mean, whatever it is, it will be your mentality that takes you either from where you are to the next level or keep you the same. I mean, there are life things that happen, but ultimately it is up to you. And the ones who can be mentally tough, the ones who can be poised under pressure, and the ones who can maintain a what I say is a positivity, a persistence, and a patience in their mind as to what they're going after. Those are the ones who can really be great at what they do, because the greatest victory you can ever have is the one over yourself that then helps you to have help others reach their potential. So to shorten that answer, it's everything to me. So how do I do that every day? Well, first of all, it's what gives me fulfillment and energy. I mean, pouring into or having people like you pour into me or listening to that, Of course, my faith is a big part of my life. These are simple things, but it's usually the most simple things that are the most genius for you to progress. So
Amen.
it's time in the Bible. It's time in books, self-help books. I'm reading a couple right now. And one, I just actually finished High Road Leadership by John Maxwell. This other one is called Talent, Team, and Cultures by a gentleman named Brad Black. And, it just, those are some of the small things. It's surrounding myself with people who uplift me, who challenge me, who are going after big goals. I mean, it's a classic line to say that you are who you surround yourself with, but it's totally true. It's totally true. The people around you who are going to uplift you or bring you down. And so it's my daily habits of some of those things. It's the people that I surround myself with, and it's the faith that really keeps my mind moving forward. I when I was younger, when I went through all the injuries and I went through some of those individual moments at Butler when I was frustrated and I was kind of focused on myself and my mind was kind of playing games with me, and I wasn't being my best. And it was really through those times, and I'm by no means perfect at it, but it's those times that have really helped me realize, especially in the field of medicine and the challenges that it brings. It's like the mentality of the way that you approach every day. Am I going to be positive or am I going to be negative? Am I going to be growth minded or am I going to be limited? Am I going to be positive, negative, whatever it may be? It's up to you. And it doesn't matter what your habits are. Your mindset leads to your habits. So, you can read that in Atomic Habits by James Clear. That's another amazing book. So I kind of went off on a rant because I'm passionate about the mindset just like you are. I approach it in a little bit different way, but gosh, if we can just have victory over ourselves, and that's something you got to do on a daily basis, you're going to live a life that I say that I want. When I'm 65, 70, 75, 80, I hope I'm healthy, but I want a life that I can look back on and say, I'm really proud of what I did and I'm fulfilled by what I did. And if I can do that, no matter how big or small it is, and the people that I impact, I know I'm going to be satisfied with the way that I live my life. So
You're preaching right there again, Reverend Bennett. I absolutely love that answer. Love all the books and that you're dropping right there. I'm a huge book reader. I'm going to lift my Zoom here. I'm in my office library. Man, I like to say your life's going in the direction of the 5 books that you last read.
Totally true. Totally true.
Love to hear that. Tell us, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit as we close, but just kind of like tell us what like a spiritual theme, because we talk about in our mindset training, there's 3 planes of existence. There's the physical, there's the mental, and there's the spiritual. And we say here at Compete Training Academy, as within, so without. Got to take care of the inside because what's on the inside manifests on the outside. So just kind of tell us like a spiritual theme on your heart right now, maybe something God's put on your heart, something you're reading in one of those amazing books that has struck a chord with you, something that God's speaking to you.
Yeah, I think that, they're really within the last, I would say, maybe 6 months, and I'm going to use it in the world of prayer because I don't really know where the 3 things came from, but what's really been on my heart, and you can see that on my social media and on the things that I've progressively shared more in my faith, and it's really 3 things that I think about and that I pray about. It's that's been put on my heart the most recent. Number 1, I say, God, please let me reach the very highest of potentials for which you have set for me. Because whatever you want me to be, whatever you want me to do, that's what I want to do. So help me to reach that. The second one is help me to be a man whose heart is after your own. I admire David for having that said about him in the Bible. And again, if I can live my life in such a way to where when I meet God one day, he could say, Stephen, you were a man after my own heart. I don't know if there's any other compliment that would be greater to me. And again, that I say those things. By no means am I perfect. Anybody who's kind of wrestling with their faith aspect of their life, perfection is never an option. We have a God who is perfect, and that's why we can live an imperfect life and still be saved by grace through faith and the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross, getting into Easter weekend. But, so help me to be a man whose heart is after your own. Help me to be a man who reaches the very highest of potentials for which you have set for me. And then help me to be a man who advances your kingdom. And
that's right.
That if I can do any, I keep saying if I could do anything because there's so many things I want to do, but if I can be those 3 things, those are really what put God in my heart. I know that'll keep my mindset in a perfect direction. I know that'll keep my perspective broad and others focused. And I know that it will be a way for me to be the very best I can be. I'm very passionate. I think God calls us to be the very best we can be. And I want to do that so that I can help others be the very best they can be while advancing God's kingdom. And so those are, a little bit broader and more philosophical, but I've really tried to focus on everything that I go after isn't about me. And if I can live my life in a way that represents God and see him one day, and he says, you are a man after my own heart, and I'm proud of you for what you did. That puts chills through me right now, just even thinking about it. So I hope I can do that. I hope others can see that I'll love them as much as I can, that I'll give everything I possibly can to them as a surgeon and as a coach and as a leader, and and see what happens. But if I can do it for God's sake, leading and whatever it may be, that's what he's really put in my heart to try to continue to tell myself and to tell others in their own field. So
I love that. I love that, Dr. Bennett. And I love how you mentioned scripture. We talk about scripture all the time on this podcast in our mindset training. And if you listen to AJ Moye's podcast, but last week, listeners, AJ Moye talked about how he had a stroke overseas playing basketball. He literally could not remember his daughter or his mother or his family's names, but the doctor and his family said he was repeating scripture while he was there.
yeah.
I was just with a mindset client who recently had one of their best friends' parent died, and they're visiting their parent on their deathbed. The parent did not recognize the family. The body was decaying, the physical was decaying, but that human, that soul, was literally repeating scriptures in their final hours and minutes. Guys, God's word is alive. It's active. It's sharper than a two-edged sword that changes your DNA, bones, joints, and marrow. And so I love it when people ask me, what's the quickest way to level up my mindset? Get in God's word.
Yeah.
Get in God's word. I like to say the second way to level up your mindset is go on a physical transformation, because it takes your mind and spirit to do that. But love that you said that. And then I also love that you said advancing God's kingdom. I want to challenge you, listener. Man, this was an unbelievable podcast, and I can't wait. We're going to have this out very soon after recording this, and it's going to be on social media. And I'm fired up from the word and the passion that Dr. Bennett brought to us, and I'm very grateful for it. But what are you doing to advance God's kingdom?
Yeah.
I want to shout out Dr. Bennett, and I appreciate him being vulnerable and sharing his heart and his passions, like him starting bold, him every single day as an orthopedic surgeon, doing what he does every day with the mindset that he has, serving others. What are you doing to advance God's kingdom? And I would challenge you. I'm actually reading a book right now, Dr. Bennett, called Garden City by John Mark Comer.
Yeah.
And have you read it?
I haven't. No. But I've heard of it, and it's funny. Like, it was just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody talked to me about that. But go ahead. I haven't read it yet.
Okay, it's an unbelievable book. And John Mark, as we close this podcast, he talks about the art of being human, which is working and resting. And that's what God did. He created the world in 6 days. He worked, and it was good. So my challenge to you, listener, is do work that ignites your soul, that fires up your passions. As you heard it through Dr. Bennett, he loves what he does. And he's starting another venture, bold, because he's passionate about it. And so, do you do meaningful work that you love that advances the kingdom? I say this lovingly. If you don't, God's calling you to make a shift, because it's not supposed to be that way. And also rest. All right. Right now, some of you, if you're anything like me, and Dr. Bennett, you may be able to relate with me, as you are a high performer, advancing the kingdom. Temptation can be to go, and not rest. And I'm encouraging you, listener, to find systematic approaches to rest every single week and every single day, to work from a place of rest. Dr. Bennett, we'll close with this as we wrap up our time, because as a high performer and what you do, um, and now you're starting Bold, what are some things that you do to work from a place of rest, like daily rest, weekly rest? How do you rejuvenate yourself so you can be at your top performance each and every day?
Yeah, I think really it's taking time away to intentionally, and I say that word very important, intentionally spend time with those who are closest to you, totally distraction free. I mean, I think that's the best way to rejuvenate yourself. I mean, that's my wife, that's my family, that's some of my closest friends. And that's probably a simple answer, but one that is harder to do, I think, than people may think. It's always like, hey, let's get together sometime for dinner, and then you never have dinner, and then that kind of thing. Intentionally spending time distraction free with those you care about and those you love, because time goes way too fast. I feel like I know how fast it goes, and then it goes faster. And the moments we have with everybody they're not forever. And so that's a very simple answer, and some of the things I've already said in terms of reading, of course, but intentionally spending time distraction free with those you love and with those who uplift you. And I think, that gives you a perspective to say you're always doing something bigger than yourself. You're always blessed to be able to have the people that you have in your life. And so that would be my answer.
Coach Bennett, that's a very wise answer. I love that answer. Distraction free in my mindset coaching. This tool,
Yep.
that is a blessing. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is such a blessing that Coach Bennett and I connected over this right here. We connected over social media. However, this is also the biggest thief.
Yeah.
It can be the biggest thief of rest, of moments that are free and available to you, and you just got to be aware of it. So I just want to encourage you right now to get a grip on your phone, because in my mindset training program, those enrolled, I highly encourage and each and every person to the last hour of the day and the first hour of the day are no phone. Just to the way you start your day and the way you end your day. Science has proven that the most formidable hours on the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind runs the majority of your life, are the first hour and the last hour of the day. And so, do we want this phone, distractions, emails, work, stress impacting our subconscious mind? Or do you want to get into, as Coach Bennett and I encourage, get in the Bible, get into journaling, get into meditation, get into prayer, get into taking care of your spirit in a distraction-free way, like Coach Bennett is encouraging us. Dr. Bennett, thanks again for joining me on the podcast here today. How can our audience follow you and find you, whether that be on social media platforms or websites? We'll get those in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, it's sbennett, SBENNETT _25. I'd love for you to follow me. I post a lot of the stuff that we've talked about on here on there. My Twitter, it's a little more specific to the doctor thing, but it's called Dr. B2125. And those are the two primary things that I post. I'm on LinkedIn, though. If you connect with me on one thing, we can get connected on the others for sure. BennettLeadership.org is how you find Bold online, and you can find all kinds of information about me. That's where you can book me as a keynote speaker, follow the blog posts, things like that. So those are the three absolute primary ways, and you can anybody can message me anytime, and I'd be happy to chat with them. So no, I appreciate your time, Jordan. This was awesome. Shout out to you for what you do. I hope people recognize how special you are and the dedication you have to living a life for others. And this was awesome. So I'm glad we were able to connect, and I'm excited for what you continue to do. So keep being you, because you're going to keep impacting a lot of people. So
I appreciate that encouragement, and truly great to officially meet you here today through Zoom. And I can't wait to meet you in person and break some bread and fellowship and talk some more mindset. And you've highly encouraged me and our audience here today. And thanks again for joining us. And for all you Compete Mentality podcast family, keep competing. Do what God calls you to do, even when it's hard. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with the 1 to 5 people that God has placed on your heart. Go compete.